Hi guys, my name is Sam Free and welcome back to Lesson 2 of Learn2Code with CzechsMix. That is my online alias. And just in our last lesson, we talked about the basics of a C++ program, and we made the C++ Hello World program. We ran it to verify that it worked, and then we uploaded it to Github. And today what we're going to talk about is void functions, and our objectives today are going to be an introduction to DNRY, or the idea of do not repeat yourself, and then we're going to look at how to declare a void function. And don't worry if you don't know what that means just yet. We're going to talk a little bit about what a void function is, and then we're going to break down the song Happy Birthday into repeatable parts, and then we're going to write the functions, and then we're going to call the functions. And then whenever we verify that that works and it prints Happy Birthday, we will upload the second lesson to GitHub. So if we think about what it means to break down a problem, let's just look at what it would take to write a Hello World program now. I was just going to save as I want to save this. Yeah, I think I'm just going to save this. I'm just going to save this as a temporary file in temps, and we're just going to save this as temp.cpp, just so that it picks up the C++ style and it adds that color. So remember from our first lesson, if we want to print stuff for the console, we need to include IOStream. We're going to use the standard namespace. And then we're going to declare our function, int main, that the program always looks for, and we're going to indicate a success by returning 0. Now, if we think about printing the lyrics to Happy Birthday, we'll start off with Happy Birthday to you, and then we'll put the next line on a new line. And then this is where the song gets a little bit more complicated. And then we go back to the beginning. Now, we've noticed that when I do this file that there's a lot of repeating going on here. And it would be great if I could categorize lines of code into specific jobs and run those jobs by just storing, by saying, hey, run this group or this set of lines of code. And the way that we do that in computer science is called a subroutine, or the way that we call a subroutine in C++ is a void function, or a function that doesn't return anything. In computer science, there is a technical difference between functions and subroutines, but the C++ language makes no difference between the two. We'll talk about functions that return values, like we've already been doing, for example, with int, in later lessons. But to begin introducing you to breaking down your code into functions, we're just going to start with void functions. Now, a void function simply means that it's not going to send any value back to us. It's just going to execute the lines of code in it. And we're going to change this one to print to you. Now, the open and the close parentheses just say that there's an empty list and that this function doesn't need any information from other functions to run. It means that it can just be run and you don't need to tell it anything about how it works. And so to print Happy Birthday to you, we print Happy Birthday to you. Now, we don't need to write this big line of code multiple times. We can just write something like print to you and have that to 3 times. And actually, I'm going to use the correct function that I defined and not make a typo there. and put that line there. And so now this would print happy birthday to you, then go call and print happy birthday to you, and then print happy birthday dear Sam, and print happy birthday to you. But you can see this isn't actually properly broken out here because we're reusing happy birthday, comma, space. So we can reuse that. So what we can do is define another function, print happy, and we'll change this to cout happy birthday. And then here we can just cout the to you and print out the happy birthday by making a call to print happy. So the main function can call print to you, and then the print to you can call print happy. And then we have void print dear. This is going to be the second part of our program, and it is going to start with printing happy, and then it's going to cout dear Sam, or whatever your name is. And then here we can make a call called print dear. So the way to print happy birthday is to print to you, and then print to you again, print dear, and print to you. And you can see all these start with print happy. So now we've broken this down into something much simpler. Now you could break it down a little bit more and break it down different ways. This was just an example of how we'd start with the something and break it down. The actual file that we're looking at, close this without saving, happy birthday CPP. I broke it down into two parts, the to you part and the dear Sam part, and then I have a print part 1 and a print part 2, and then print part 1 makes a call to print start, and then prints to you, which just prints to you, and then print start prints happy. I had that backwards. It prints happy birthday, then it prints to you, and then print part 2 prints happy birthday, and then prints dear, or and prints dear Sam. So in int main we print part 1, we print part 1 again, then we print part 2, and then we print part 1. So you can see how we've broken this function up and reused the bits of code by making calls to functions instead of typing the codes out ourselves. Now again, in this example it seems a little redundant because we're replacing one line of code with one line of code that calls a function for another line of code. But as we start to write more and more complex functions, this system of breaking large problems down into smaller problems is really going to help us keep our code a lot cleaner and keep our software a lot easier to maintain and easier to write in the first place. So let's take a look at the Makefile here, and the Makefile is very similar. The Happy Birthday program depends on the Happy Birthday object file. The Happy Birthday object file compiles Happy Birthday CPP, and then once we have the object file, we can compile that object file into the Happy Birthday program. Now I've already run this program once, so I'm actually going to remove, I'm going to change directory into lesson 2 here, and I am going to remove star.o and make sure, yep, so I got rid of the object file, and I'm going to remove happy birthday as well, so executable does not exist. And then I'm going to make happy birthday, and the Makefile ran, so we can test this program by running happy birthday, if I can type, and it prints happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear Sam, happy birthday to you. And so the last thing we want to do is we want to upload this to GitHub. So I'm going to back out of this subdirectory into our main directory, Learn2Code, and I'm going to edit our .gitignore file. Now, we're still ignoring the object files and the backup files, and we're still ignoring the lesson 1 executable, but I've added this line lesson 2 to ignore the happy birthday executable for this lesson. So if I do a git status, we can see that we modified gitignore. We modified our objectives.text. I think that was just some changes between recording the last lesson and recording this lesson. And then we added the subfolder to functions. Now you can't see all the things we added, but if we do a git add dot, it will add those, and then if we check our git status again, you can see that the new files we've added were the objective text, the CPP, and the Makefile for lesson 2. So we'll do a git commit, and we'll put add lesson to source, and now we have git commit -am add lesson to source. It was looking for that file instead of looking at it as a message. So you can see we've committed that to our local repository, and now the last thing to do is to just push it back up onto GitHub so that you guys can get access to it. And as always, enter your authentication information. And it looks like it pushed up to master. So that's it for lesson 2. And next lesson we are going to be talking about integer variables and how to do basic for-function arithmetic and how to create functions that return values and also accept values as parameters. So until next time, I'm Sam Free, and thanks for stopping by.